My name is Mike Shalinsky. I'm a student at Owens Community College. Date is July 25th, 2007. The topic I'll be speaking on today is propaganda and how our country sold us a war. Propaganda is defined as the process of deliberately spreading ideas, information, half-truths or lies for the purpose of persuading the public opinion of a nation, person, or campaign. Storytellers construct and reconstruct history to fit the agenda of their government. In early 2001, people at the highest levels of the U.S. and British government conspired to plant stories of strategic influence that were known to be false. The intentions of these stories were lead the people and the world to believe that led by George W. Bush and the United States, an evil terrorist overlord named Saddam Hussein must be removed from power. It was eventually concluded that the only way to remove this evil from the world was to start a war, remove Saddam, and rebuild the country and the peace. Based on information our nation was exposed to, the country joined in arms, supported our president and our troops, and began defending our honor and freedom as Americans. It sounded like a fairy tale that started with Saddam as the big bad wolf and President Bush as Little Red Riding Hood. The problem is that almost everything we were given as evidence to support the war effort was false or misleading. It was all propaganda. It was not bad intelligence that led to the war in Iraq. It was an orchestrated effort that began before the war that was designed to mislead the public and the world. The truth behind the matter is that war is business, business is money, and money is power. To be successful in war, you must have support of the people. So as a car salesman sells a junk car to an unknowing buyer, our country began selling us a war. They found the best salesman they could and set him free to promote the war. The name of the salesman they found was John Rendon. Rendon is a man who does a job very few people even know exists. One of the most powerful people in Washington, Rendon is a leader in the strategic field known as perception management. This firm, the Rendon Group, made millions off government contracts since 1991, when it was hired by the CIA to create the conditions for removal of Saddam Hussein from power. His group works under extraordinary transfer of secret information. According to Pentagon documents obtained by the Rolling Stone magazine, the Rendon Group is authorized to research and analyze information classified up to top secret. This is an unusually high level of clearance granted to only a handful of defense contractors. Rendon is allowed access to the most secret information from all three forms of intelligence collection: eavesdropping, imaging satellites, and human spies. Rendon is a battle-tested veteran who has been secretly involved in every American shooting conflict in the past 2 decades. Rendon's control rose considerably in Washington after the terroristic attacks of September 11, 2001. In a single stroke, Osama bin Laden distorted the world's perception of reality, and in an agent of information, whoever controls perception wins. What Bush needed to fight the war on terror was a skilled information warrior, and Rendon was his man. Since 2000, his private consulting firm received more than 35 government contracts, resulting in more than $100 million. So what kind of work does Rendon do to sell a war? First, it starts with 2 months before the war, when a man named Adnan Hassan Saeed al-Hadiri took a lie detector test. The Pentagon had secretly awarded Rendon a $16 million contract to target Iraq and other adversaries with propaganda. Next, on December 17, 2001, in a small room, a CIA officer attached small metal electrodes to the ring and index fingers of a man sitting in a padded chair. The officer then stretched a black rubber tube across the man's chest and another across his abdomen. Next, he attached a thick black cuff to the man's upper arm. The man strapped to the polygraph machine was Adnan Ihsan Saeed al-Hadiri, a 43-year-old Iraqi who had fled his homeland in Kurdistan and was determined to bring down Saddam Hussein. Saeed al-Hadiri began answering yes and no to all types of questions about Saddam, and continually told of how he was a civil engineer who helped Saddam secretly bury tons of biological, chemical, and nuclear weapons. The illegal arms, according to al-Hadiri, were buried in private villas, subterranean wells, and even hidden underneath the Saddam Hussein Hospital. Saeed al-Hadiri had finally given the type of information the Bush administration had been looking for. Al-Hadiri confirmed once and for all that Saddam had been secretly stockpiling weapons of mass destruction. They finally had some hard evidence to run with. The only problem was after the polygraph experts analyzed the sharp peaks and deep valleys of the test, they determined it was all a lie. He had fabricated the entire story in hopes of securing a visa. But, as the definition for propaganda tells, just because the story wasn't true did not mean it could not be put to good use. Rendon, now armed with the failed lie detector test, started his propaganda campaign. He contacted two world-class journalists, both of which happened to be on the Rendon Group payroll, and offered them exclusive rights to a story which he told them they would want to hear. The first journalist was Judith Miller of the New York Times. She was close to the Bush administration and had been used as an outlet for their propaganda campaigns for years. After an on-camera interview with al-Hadiri, in which there was no lie detector test this time, Miller's front-page story hit the Times. The headline read, An Iraqi defector tells of work on at least 20 hidden weapon sites. She went on in her article to report the same tale al-Hadiri had told while strapped to the polygraph machine. The same tale that the CIA had confirmed as lies. That was exactly the type of exposure Rendon had been hired to provide. The second journalist was Paul Moran of the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Paul Moran was an Australian freelancer who worked for the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. The Rendon Group hired him to set up a television station aimed at promoting anti-Saddam war propaganda. The Miller interview of al-Hadiri was also broadcast worldwide through this television station. One argument that could be raised here is why, if it was the CIA and the United States behind this television station, did we go to Australia to set it up? The answer is simple. By law, the Bush administration is prohibited from spreading government propaganda at home, but there is nothing at all to stop it from going overseas, planning a phony pro-war story, knowing with certainty that it will reach the American citizens almost instantly through the internet and global media.